Before Rome, before empires renamed the world, Africa stood at the center of ancient history. This series follows the overlooked intersections of scripture, empire, and African kingdoms, told with historical discipline and documentary restraint. This is Hidden Scrolls of Africa. In previous episodes of Hidden Scrolls of Africa, we explored the powerful African kingdom of Kush, one of the great civilizations mentioned in the Bible. We also followed the journey of an Ethiopian official who traveled to Jerusalem and encountered the message of the early church on a desert road. But centuries before that journey, another African ruler had already made the road to Jerusalem. The Bible records a mysterious queen who traveled across the desert to test the wisdom of King Solomon. Scripture never records her personal name. It simply calls her the Queen of Sheba, the ruler of a wealthy kingdom known for trade, gold, spices, and precious stones. She arrived in Jerusalem with a great caravan. Camels carried gold, rare spices, costly treasures. But the queen had not crossed deserts merely to admire Solomon's palace. She came with questions, hard questions, riddles meant to test the wisdom of Israel's king. In the ancient world, rulers were judged by their wisdom, and the Queen of Sheba had come to discover whether the stories about Solomon were true. Yet one mystery remains. Why did she really make the long journey to Jerusalem? To understand that journey, we must step back into the world of the ancient kingdoms. Long before the rise of Rome, long before the great libraries of Alexandria, there ruled in Africa a queen whose influence would echo across history. Her story appears briefly in the books of Kings and Chronicles. Yet behind those few verses lies a meeting that connected Africa, Arabia, and Israel. The kingdom of Sheba was famous throughout the ancient world. Merchants traveled its trade routes, carrying gold, incense, rare spices, and precious stones. Caravans crossed deserts and mountains, linking distant lands through trade and diplomacy. From this powerful kingdom came a queen whose curiosity, and perhaps political ambition, led her toward Jerusalem. Word had reached her court of another ruler, a king whose wisdom had become legendary. His name was Solomon. Travelers spoke of his knowledge of law, nature, and human judgment. Merchants carried stories of his wealth and the order of his kingdom. Solomon's reputation had spread far beyond the borders of Israel, and the Queen of Sheba decided to see this wisdom for herself. Scripture tells us she arrived in Jerusalem with a vast caravan, camels loaded with treasure, servants carrying spices and precious stones, gold in abundance. This was not a casual visit. It was a royal diplomatic expedition. When the queen stood before Solomon, she began asking questions, difficult questions, riddles meant to test the wisdom of Israel's king. And the Bible records something remarkable. Solomon answered them all. Nothing she asked remained hidden from him. Every question she brought, he explained. But the queen observed more than his answers. She saw Solomon's palace. She saw the temple he had built. She saw the order of his court, the clothing of his servants, and the organization of his kingdom. What she witnessed left her astonished. The Queen of Sheba declared that the reports she had heard in her own land were true. Yet even those reports had not revealed the full measure of Solomon's wisdom. In her words, the half had never been told. She even praised the God of Israel, recognizing that the wisdom and stability of Solomon's kingdom came from a divine source. Then she presented her gifts. The Bible describes an offering of extraordinary value: gold in great quantity, precious stones, and spices in such abundance that none like it had ever again been seen in Israel. Solomon, in return, gave the queen everything she desired, not only the customary gifts of a king, but whatever she asked. After this remarkable exchange of wisdom and treasure, the Queen of Sheba returned to her own land. Her journey ended, but her story did not. Across Africa and the ancient world, traditions grew around this encounter. Some Ethiopian traditions would later claim that this meeting produced a son, a child who would become the ancestor of Ethiopian kings. Whether legend or history, one truth remains clear. The meeting between Solomon and the Queen of Sheba was more than a royal visit. It was a meeting of civilizations, a moment when Africa and Israel stood face to face, exchanging wisdom, questions, and understanding. The ancient world was never as isolated as we sometimes imagine. Trade routes crossed deserts, caravans connected cultures, ideas traveled along the same roads as gold and spices. And through that meeting in Jerusalem, the Queen of Sheba became immortal, a reminder that the search for wisdom once brought rulers together from lands far apart, and that some of the most powerful stories in history are hidden in only a few lines of scripture. This is Hidden Scrolls of Africa. If you want the story's history left out, subscribe. The scrolls still remember.